Hi, this is Veronica Henke in a bunker at the USDA Forest Service's Medewa National Tallgrass Prairie. You are listening to Smart Talk. The Mike Nowak Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
And now, a word about the coronavirus situation from man's and woman's best friend.
Hello, Internet. It's Pluto here, and I'm getting the feeling that there's a time of crisis for the two-leggeds, and so I thought maybe I could share some perspectives from the four-leggeds, and maybe that could help you. So we like to just chill out at home, and we curl up, and we wander around and play with the tennis ball, and there's lots that you can do. And I heard that there's a crisis with the toilet paper, which I don't understand. I mean, for cats, I understand because they like to play with it, but cats aren't that important. And then also, my other mom said that she went this morning and there was nothing in the grocery store, so she said there won't be any snacks today. But for me, it's really easy for snacks. You just go sniffing around a little bit, and also at the end of the street, at the curb area where the water goes down, sometimes snacks get stuck around there, so it's a good place to check for a little snack if you're really hungry. So it's really very important that you all be good to each other, and practice the social distancing. So you shouldn't sniff other people's legs, and you really shouldn't sniff their crotches until this whole thing is over. That's social responsibility.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio. Flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome at 877-711-5611.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. True currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in the man.
This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in the man.
Right. And good morning, everybody. And words to the wise, don't sniff anybody's crotch until all of this is over. I can't, Peggy, what's the problem? She's going, oh, no, exactly. This is, we have to be kind to each other. And that was Pluto the dog. No, not the Pluto the dog that you think of, but a different Pluto the dog, which was running around there on the used tubes. And boy, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there right now in the 80s.
Weirder than usual, yes.
And we'll be playing some of it during the show today. But today is the virtual Chicago Flower and Garden Show. And where's my dinger? Let's bring it here. I got one right here. And we're so pleased to have Tony Abruscato right here on the Zoom line with us. We're just jumping right into this because we want to make people happy on a Sunday morning when they're starting to get locked down in various states, like 75 million of us right now already. Tony Abruscato, director of the Chicago Flower and Garden Show. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks so much for having us on today and talking through the show, or what would have been the show, I should say.
I know we would have been broadcasting live from Navy Pier in Chicago, but that's not happening. So here we are, and we want to talk to you. And right now in this first segment, we're just going to have a couple of quick minutes, and then we'll get back after the first break. But you've been already trying to unload plants that were coming into the show that would have been at the show this morning and for 5 days. Have you been successful at all?
We have. Actually, we teamed up together with LaManda Joy, a good friend from City Grange, and she opened up her yard as a you-pick kind of pop-up for the plants. And so we had, 300-400 azaleas. We had 300 roses that were in bloom.
Okay, you got to hold that thought right there. We'll be right back.
got it from Agnes, she got it from Jim. We all agree it must have been Louise who gave it to him. She got it from Harry, who got it from Marie. And everybody knows that Marie got it from me.
Yeah, there he is.
Giles
the
got it from
iconic,
Daphne.
the indomitable Tom Lehrer, but I don't think he's talking about coronavirus. I got a feeling it's something else there.
Love.
We're just going to continue to have fun. I mean, it's a very serious time for a couple of hours on a Sunday morning as we talk about serious matters like coronavirus and gardening and the environment. We're still gonna punch it with a little bit of humor, and if you don't like it, you got to be laughing, folks. You got to go for it, okay? And today is the virtual Chicago Flower and Garden Show on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and she's got her own dinger there. We're at our homes, broadcasting safely, prophylactic broadcasting with real microphones today. I'm really excited about that too. And Tony Abruscato, the director of the Chicago Flower and Garden Show, is on the Zoom machine with us, and we'll be getting to Brekke Bounds in just a second. Get your seed starting notes ready because Brekke is going to be telling you about that. But Tony, you got to give me, we talked a little bit just before the break about you unloading plants. You said you were doing that and you were able to do that successfully. How many plants did you get in, and how many were you trying to get rid of?
Well, we had about 2,000 plants that came in that we weren't able to turn around. So we had a bunch of others that we were able to stop from coming in, so we didn't have to do that. But we were looking at like almost 1,500, 2,000 plants that we were working with the last couple of days.
Wow. So, and what happened in Illinois, and it's happened in California and in New York, it's going to happen in other states, folks, is that there's going to be a stay-in-place order. That's the only way you stop this. Can I offer some advice to everybody listening right now, wherever you are in the country, because I know we go out various places in the country. Stay home. Don't go out. Don't gather. Don't do that. The only way we even have a hope of slowing this down is if people do not interact in person. This is why we have Zoom machines, okay? Mm-hmm. It's why we have phones. I mean, we're better prepared to connect with each other right now than we have been in the history of humanity. So do it. That's the way to do it. And please wash your hands thoroughly and stay at home. That's all I can say. So that was a preface to saying that Illinois locked down at 5 p.m. yesterday. For those of you who are getting this show a week later, that was a week ago. And by that time, your state might have done the same thing. So you had a couple of days to try to unload those plants with the folks at City Grange. And you had people come and driving by, and what, you were throwing the plants in their car? Is that it?
Yeah, we just had them slow down. You know, we tossed them. We planned it out, because as you just mentioned, safety first. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing anything to advance, the disease and people catching it. So we had curbside pickup. People were able to come up with their car, pre-order, come up with their car, and they'd say, I'm Smith. And so we come in, we put the box outside. They would come in and grab the box and put it in the back of their car.
plants.
Yeah, and they would just or open their trunk. We did have some people that lined up for like a U-pick yard. And what I ended up doing is we took ribbon, and every 6 feet we put another ribbon on the fence so that as people walked up, they automatically took place in queue so that we weren't bringing them together. And then and inside the yard area, it was all outdoors. We didn't allow anyone inside. Mm-hmm. And then we limited it to 10 people at a time.
Great.
We have about a minute left with you, Tony, before we get to seed starting here.
Yep.
What's going to happen to the plants that didn't get sold? I'm almost afraid to ask.
Well, as always, after the Flower and Garden Show, we donate a lot of plant material out to charity. So we're going to look to try to maintain those plants as best we can. Our good friend Dave at Alsop Nursery, he's got a bunch of plants in greenhouses, so they might stay. And we'll try to either do another pop-up plant sale if it allows, or we'll donate them back out to charity.
And if things get back to relative normal in a few months, do you anticipate maybe having one of those late summer Chicago Flower and Show events?
I'd like to. We want to try to figure something out and do maybe one at the Taste of Chicago, and maybe one later in the
Boy,
spring.
I taste of Chicago. I think that's a goner, but that's me.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, but we're, this is our single source of income. So like a lot of people, we won't be able to go back to work and start income because all of our income was supposed to be derived from the Flower and Garden Show. So we've got some interesting times ahead of us.
Yeah, you do. And I wish you well. People can go to chicagoflower.com for more information about the show. And I wish you well, Tony, and I hope you have a really good insurance policy. That's
no insurance for this. So
oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see me with the plant truck. We'll be doing pop-up
That's
plant
right.
sales.
And he has a plant truck. And when things get back up and rolling again, there are plants in a big old truck.
Mm-hmm.
And to tell you what, when things get rolling again, we'll bring you back and we'll talk about rolling that truck out. How about that?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Peggy.
Always a
Tony,
pleasure, Tony.
take care.
And we'll let you go now. Let's go to Brekke Bounds. Are you there, Brekke?
Yeah, good morning.
Hi, Brekke. Did I pronounce it right? Is it Bounds?
It's bounds, like out of bounds.
Okay, we're getting all our names set today, and Brekke works with City Grange as an avid educator. She has a BA in environmental studies and MS in sustainable food systems, and is certified in permaculture design. And had the Chicago Flower and Garden Show been held this week, you would have been out there teaching people about seeds. So we're going to give them a quick 9-minute course in seed starting. And before you do that, I have to just hold up my little seed here, which you can see.
Oh, yeah, looks good.
It's a garden gem
Hold
tomato.
it in front of your shirt. It's easier to see the tomato.
All right. Well, I'd have to do this.
There you
go. The garden gem tomato that we got from Dr. Harry Klee at the University of Florida. I love the tomatoes that he has put together.
I just planted garden gems yesterday. You inspired me.
So there we go. And I've got beets going, and I've got kale. I know, Peggy, you have some chard going as well, right?
Chard, kale, couple peppers.
And ours are in Dixie cups. Is that a great place to start, Brekke, rather?
So here's what I'll say. In times like this, you can start them wherever.
Ow, you're hurting me here. Okay. All right. What would you do? You're the expert.
Yeah, so Dixie cups are a great place to start, especially for hobbyists. I think it's good. You just want to make sure there's a drainage hole in the bottom.
Oh, we took all the Dixie cups, 3 holes with a skewer. It's actually a meat skewer from a barbecue, and we go whoop, 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 and we put the holes in there.
Yeah, I like it. So I can show you what I use. I put it too far away from me. Hold on. It's a set of cells.
Okay.
You can see this, and it sits inside another little thing. Can you guys see that on the screen?
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. So I use that. I like those a lot because you can water from the bottom. So you put the water in the bottom, and then it comes up through the bottom of the cell, and it doesn't disturb the seeds or upset their forming root systems. And if you have a cup like your Dixie cup, you can set that in a plate or a bowl and put water in that as well to get that same effect. So I think there's lots of options. I also have been talking to people that have started seeds in egg cartons and all sorts of different stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of options for seeds or for starting.
And how should you prep the container? How should you clean it before you plant your seeds?
So I usually just do a really good rinse with water and then let it sit. So it's totally dried out, make sure there's everything. I clean those off. I'll clean them off when I move things outside. But if you're worried about it being dirty or having any sort of disease, you can also do a vinegar solution.
Can I call you in a little bit?
Okay, I think Tony, you need to hang up your.
No, that's Randall.
Oh, is that Randall? Oh, sorry. Okay, I thought it was Tony. Because I also saw Tony up there too. So you clean the stuff. What about your seed mix? Now, folks should know that there are what we call soilless mixes, and some are specifically seed starter mixes. Do you think there's a real difference between your average soilless mix and a seed starter, what they call a seed starter mix?
So here's what I'll say. I think that you should do what works for you. I've had success with a wide variety of starting mediums. Everything from just a plain potting soil to the more like soilless stuff to those little jiffy pots that blow up, I've had success with all of them. And I just want people to feel like they can start seeds with what they've got.
Okay. Now, choosing seeds, if you're like me, I got 10 years worth of seeds sitting in my basement and in various, and in boxes and in plastic containers. A lot of the seeds, some of the seeds we planted here are years old and they're still germinating. I should let people know that seeds are viable for a long time, aren't they?
They are. It depends on the type of plant, how long the seeds will be viable. So things like peppers, they're going to have viability for a little bit longer than some of the herbs. But in general, if you're worried about seed viability, you can do a viability test, which is super easy. You just put them on a wet towel in a warm spot and see if they sprout.
And if folks are not like me and they don't have a lot of seeds there, what are they going to do right now since they can't get out to go to stores to buy seeds? Because I assume that's not essential. What are you telling people?
So you can order seeds online. There's a ton of places that if any of you have ever gotten a seed catalog, those places will ship seeds directly to your door. I personally love Seed Savers Exchange. They have tons of great, interesting heirloom options. And I put in an additional order just this past week after realizing it was going to get a little bit tougher to get out. So they might take a little bit longer right now. I know Seed Savers sent out an email saying that they're really trying to be very careful with their staff, but you will get seeds if you order them online.
That's good to know. In fact, I'm going to make a request to the folks watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. Send us a note if you've contacted various seed companies and what are you hearing from them? Do they have things in stock? Are they able to get the seeds out? Are they like Seed Savers? Are they being really careful about it? We would like to know, and then we can disseminate that information, perhaps even by the end of this first hour today, or even the end of the show.
Yeah, I know I've gotten from Johnny's and Territorial that they're running behind.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me a bit that all of them are running behind, but that's good because it means people are ordering their seeds. All right, is there anything you wanted to show us? We got about maybe 2.5 minutes here. Anything in particular that you wanted to show us, Breck, because you said you might have some tips, tricks, and troubleshooting.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I wanted to show that I thought might be interesting for people who are trying to make do. The first thing is this paper pot. It's made out of newspaper, but you can make it out of any paper. And it's just a little square, and it's, a little like 2.5 inches around. And this is something you can make. It's great to do with kids. If you've got kids at home, it's
how do you do that? How do you do it?
Origami pot. So the best place for you to do this, because I actually couldn't figure out how to set my computer up to show you a little tutorial, is to actually probably do a Google, and you can just Google like paper pots instructions. There's tons of videos, and they come in, they're different sizes based on the paper, but it's really pretty easy. It's just a series of like 12 folds. So I just wanted to show this to people so that they would know they could do it. It's a fun project.
That's great. And are you going to have that in a blog post? You said you were going to have a blog post up at citygrange.com.
Yeah. We actually are breaking it up into 2 parts. It'll be one is the equipment that you need. I talk a little bit about, do you need lights? The answer is it'd be best if you did, but if you don't, we got options. So all the equipment stuff that you need. And then there's also one that's just sort of, here are the steps.
Well, I'll have you know, I talked to the folks at Happy Leaf LED. You can go to, give them a little ding. And they've got lights available right now. And if you don't have a good light at home, that's a great place to order because those lights are fantastic. I don't know if you've ever used them, Breck.
I haven't used Happy Leaf specifically, but I've heard wonderful things.
Okay, you've got like 30 seconds here. What else you want to tell us before we let you go?
I'm trying to think of if you're a beginner, this is actually what I would say. If you're a beginner and you don't have a lot of equipment, you can start with things like our brassicas. That's going to be kale, broccoli. Those types of things are a lot easier to start at home without light, without any heat force, any of that stuff. You can go ahead and pop those.
All right. Brekke Bounds, thank you so much. The Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
So Breck,
And Justin
Yeah.
from Gabby Road.
so we're still out on Facebook audio. We have a question. Someone says, when do you transplant to a larger pot?
So that's a good question. And the answer will depend on your timing and the plant, because some plants it's actually easier to just transfer them outside. Things like the kale and broccoli and stuff like that, you'll want to just put it outside right around something like April 20th, 25th, depending on how the weather's looking. But things like tomatoes and peppers, you will want to move into a bigger pot. I usually do it once they start to get about like 4 or 5 inches tall. I kind of will admit I do it a little bit by feel, but you don't want their roots coming out the bottom and looking around and getting really
Looking around. I like that idea.
Looking around and saying, I'm not leaving this pot unless you cut it away from me.
Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you one thing though, if the roots are coming out of the bottom, it means you've been growing it well.
It's true. They're strong. They're ready.
Yeah, they are ready. Randall, how are we doing with our next guest? Do we have Kasey yet?
Yep.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here, guys.
And okay, Breck, we're going to let you go. We got the information about the blog post, and I'm glad that you were with us today. And thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Be safe.
Know what to ask. Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of
Tony, you're still there, right?
Who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more.
I at first I was going to say, you can hang up, but you know what? I kind of like the daddy of the show sort of being omnipresent here.
Well, we have another window available if you want to. Tony wants to go back on screen.
No, well, Tony's there now. I mean, he has never gone away.
No, but he's not on Facebook.
I even got coffee.
He's not on Facebook, but we can put him on Facebook.
What do you mean?
Isn't
he automatically?
No.
At your doorstep.
The seafood at Sitka Salmon Shares I don't know how that works because
no, that's Randall. Randall's got to put him back on camera.
Community-supported fishery like your CSA instead of
okay. Well, if we need to, we're just having him hover. He's going to be omnipresent here. Okay.
Right now, there's just a blank window. There's 3 across the top and one's blank. And then
that's what I've got.
Yeah.
Story of my life.
I'm here. I'm hanging out. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah. But Breck is still showing on Facebook.
Yeah.
Switch it to Kasey. Randall.
I'm working on it, Peg.
Thanks.
I can just sign off too, so that you guys don't have to worry about me. I'll listen on Facebook.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Thank you,
Breck.
Oh, I'm a lonely little petunia in an onion patch, an onion patch, an onion patch. I'm a lonely little petunia in an onion patch, and all I do is cry all day.
Oh.
Boo, boo. The air's so strong it takes my breath away.
All right. Thank you,
Godfrey.
You got to bring the oldies in every so often.
You got to do it every now and then because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't care if we play that on Facebook. That's what I'm trying to do. My whole life has become figuring out what music Mark Zuckerberg isn't going to mute when we post it on Facebook. And I hope he's sleeping in today.
Yeah, I always dread when I get that little email.
And by the way, if you're hearing this on the radio, you can go to Facebook and watch us live, or you can watch the video after we're through here. It will be posted up there. Give us a like, folks. It's going to help us stay on the air during this time of crisis. We are trying to do what we can for you, to get you good information, to keep you smiling a little bit on a Sunday morning. I know I'm not a Pollyanna, folks. All right. You know that if you've ever listened to the show, but there's some good that a lot of people can do. This is a time for us to help each other. Mm-hmm. And so help us out and tell your friends. Go to Facebook, give us a like, go to YouTube and subscribe. That would be wonderful. We would love to have you because we also do a live stream on, YouTube.
And subscribe to the podcast off MikeNowak.net.
Or just go to MikeNowak.net, MikeNowak.net, and listen to the podcast from past shows. That said, we are moving on with the virtual Chicago Flower and Garden Show. That gets a 2 dings, and we have Kasey Eaves on the Zoom machine. Hi, Kasey. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. Good morning, Peggy. Good morning, Mike.
Good
and thank
morning.
you for having me.
You are the owner of Vivant Gardening Services. You make gardening with edibles, natives, and pollinator plants approachable to, well, ordinary people, but restaurants, schools, and more. And today, one of my favorite topics is edibles that are perennials. Would you explain what that's all about?
Absolutely. At a time where we're looking at our home gardens out our windows, right, and staring at it from inside, we're planting our gardens for the season. Adding some perennial edibles into the mix is a one-time planting that can feed your family for generations in some cases, right? And so bringing those into your mix now, you can do it in a beautiful way for your home landscape. Keep it very low maintenance so you can give those tomatoes all the attention that they need as the summer progresses.
Well, that's true, because at some point, if you get it done, you get it started right, the perennials kind of take care of themselves, don't they? Where annuals, they're each year you got to get out, they put the seed in, and then you got to maintain them during their one bit of growth, their lifetime during one growing season. But perennials, they keep coming back.
They do. And there are some amazing low maintenance perennial edibles for our region of the country, which is quite nice. Some of them are ones that you've never seen in a grocery store, but can thrive in your backyard in any number of soil conditions, water conditions, and can really serve you well for that.
Well, let's get into some of those. What are some of your favorites?
I would love to share some of my favorites with you. One of them that ends up in a lot of clients' yards when they ask me to help out with planting their edibles is something that we like to call a Juneberry. It's also known as a service berry. For those of you tuning in online, you can see some images here. These are beautiful plants. They can literally grow in swamp or desert at this point. And they've also been the key source of vitamin C for most of our ancestors. If you were wondering how people avoided scurvy before Florida oranges made it around the country, this plant is the one that helps you out through it. It puts off a beautiful.
Know that. That's an amazing bit of information. Okay.
I looked it up one day because I was very, very curious about it. I just couldn't realize how without citrus fruit in our area, we were getting the vitamin C intake we needed. And this is the plant that did it. They're also known as a service berry, and a lot of you might have them in your home landscapes without even knowing it, because it is such a beautiful landscape plant. It provides spring white blossoms very early in the season, beautiful berries in June, hence the name Juneberry, and then scarlet foliage in the fall. For those of you who have been dying to grow blueberries, which is a very high maintenance plant for our area, right?
Oh, yeah.
Our clay alkaline soil can't take it. This is the alternative for it. It can swap out for blueberries in almost any recipe. And in fact, it's actually sweeter and juicier. It tastes a bit like a blueberry and a white plum had a baby.
But here's the problem. There's a couple problems. One, you talk about blueberries, and people listening in other parts of the country might say, well, what's the problem? Well, in the Chicago area, as Kasey said, we have clay alkaline soil, which they hate. They want acidic soil, and they want very acidic soil. So I always
love those. Yeah, they love those coastal climates where there's lots of sand to give them proper drainage, and a lot of pines and Douglas firs and things that are growing nearby to get that acidity.
Well, the tip for growing blueberries in Illinois, of course, is to move to Michigan. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Because Michigan has that, all right, over there. In a lot of other parts of the country where you might be listening, you might be able to grow blueberries. We can't do it very well here. So Amelanchier, and that's the genus of the berries that Kasey's talking about, is a wonderful substitute. The problem is the birds get to those berries before I do in my yard.
Sometimes you do have to give a good battle. You can put in a couple plants, provide a decent bird buffet in another part of your yard, and hope for the best. You could net them if you wanted to, but we're going for low maintenance here, right? This is a plant that you're going to plant once. You'll mulch it in spring to keep down the weeds so you don't have to be weeding all the time. And then you'll prune the suckers after year 3, maybe in springtime. So you're wanting to get a lot of bang for your buck. This is a good way to do it and build a lot of resiliency in your yard at the same time.
Right. And you've got some, you had some other plants.
Yeah. So cornelian cherries and currants up there.
Cornelian cherry. I'm kind of surprised because aren't those berries? I have a cornelian cherry. And again, I leave those berries to the birds. And I think the squirrels eat a lot of them as well.
Can't blame them. If something's delicious, they're going to go for it, right?
Yeah.
A cornelian cherry is actually not even in the cherry family, which is kind of a surprise to a lot of people. It's actually a dogwood. And that really speaks a lot to its hardiness as well as to its capability to put on a good show in a home landscape. It will develop a cherry that's just a little bit larger than your thumb, and it will have a decent sized pit to it, but it will have a very similar flavor profile to the sour cherries that you would expect. That's why those squirrels go crazy for it.
They make wine out of it, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The beauty of these plants as well is that those fruits are a little bit smaller. So you get a little bit less of the drunk animal situation going on in your yard. They break down really fast. You might not be able to start a YouTube channel of drunk moose, but you'll be able to go with it in your
What
own
about
way.
Drunk chipmunks?
Yeah, right. Pardon?
What about sour cherries and raspberries?
Sour cherries and raspberries are also great. Raspberries can take a variety of soil types, and they can do okay in part shade. You'll get more fruit if you're in full sun. And sour cherries are also great. The beauty of all these fruits that we've just mentioned to people who are listening in is that they're also self-pollinating. You're not needing to put a male plant and a female plant around the yard. The reason that I lean a little bit more towards a cornelian cherry instead of a regular sour cherry is there's a little bit more disease resistance. Sour cherries can have an aphid problem. They can get powdery mildew easily. You can combat that in the springtime, with maybe a dormant spray or with some other measures. But you'll find that the cornelian cherry might give you a little bit more of a show, a little bit less maintenance. It just depends on how much time you're willing to put into it.
Okay, I'm going to sucker punch you with a question here.
Bring it. I'm ready.
Okay. We are in difficult times here. Do you have any idea whether people can order these plants online?
I actually did check the Stark Nursery's website the other day. Being a girl from the St. Louis area, I do have a small spot in my heart for them, and being in Missouri. And they do seem to still be shipping and doing mail order.
We got a couple of stations in Missouri that I hope are listening to this.
Hi, St. Louis. Hi, Missouri. Hang in there with your own shelter in place.
I know there's a couple of smaller nurseries out of Michigan that I've gotten emails from as well that carry local.
Yeah,
so they're all trying to keep up. And you can order, have the tree delivered, and get it in your yard and get up to speed right away.
You can. A lot of these perennial fruits, especially, you can get young, and you can even order as bare root in order to get them going in your yard a little quicker. And that can all be done through the U.S. Postal Service, which is still running, bless them.
Okay, we got less than 2 minutes here. Let's get real quick into alliums, garlic, onions, shallots, chives, those.
Let's do it, right? There's so much to share. Alliums are a wonderful addition to your perennial garden. I planted a full perennial allium garden a couple years ago just to try them all out, and these were my favorites. For those of you turning online, you can see some of the images for this, but we're talking about walking onions, garlic chives, elephant garlic, and shallots. With the exception of garlic chives, which you trim from the top, the rest of them you're going to kind of treat as if it was a daylily that you're dividing, right? You're going to go into the fall, wait for some of that foliage to die back, dig them up, take what you want, plant the rest for the following year. My favorite trick for all the home gardeners there is to put these in with your wildflowers and your perennial beds. These are things that you're going to leave all year round. You're going to mulch them in spring to keep the weeds down, or in the fall. And other than that, you're going to let them go and take them as you need them. So these are all easy ones that you can get started. And
all right, we got to let it go at that. Thank you so much, Kasey Eaves. Go to vivantgardens.com. We'll do more soon. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Thank you all.
Slug by slug, weed by weed, boy, this garden's got me teed. All the insects come to feed in my tomato plants. Sunburn fades.
Yeah, that's what it's like in your garden. It's not inch by inch.
Where's the chipmunks? Where's the chipmunks, though?
Well, they're at your house. Aren't you looking
know.
for the chipmunks right now, Peggy?
I haven't seen one this morning. We're expecting snow. They're smart.
Oh, yeah, that's like we need that right now, some snow. Let's add some snow. By the way, I got to tell you, I'm looking at the box here, and you can't see them if you're watching on Facebook or the YouTubes. Tony Abruscato hovering over us like a deity. I think we popped him up there. Thank you.
There he is, yep.
And he never went away. The director of the Chicago Flower and Garden Show is looking over us as we do the virtual Chicago Flower and Garden Show on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And this is, I'm having a great time, and I hope folks listening are as well. Next up on the program, and we've been battling with her name all morning now, and that is, let's see if I get it right, Marcia Lautanen-Raleigh. How are we, Marcia?
Oh, that is absolutely excellent, Mike. Thank you very much.
Oh, give me.
You get a ding.
I get
Thank you.
a beer ding for that. And Marcia has been, well, she's the owner of Backyard Patch Herbs. And again, all the links for this, if you're listening today and you go, how do I find these people? How do I write this down? You don't have to write it down. Go to my blog at MikeNowak.net, MikeNowak.net. All of the information is there. Backyard Patch Herbs is based in the Chicago suburbs. And you're a fancy gal. You've been listed as a best of the best in the Northern Illinois Library Association. You're a regular contributor to the Essential Herbal magazine. We've got your blog up there, but if folks want to go to it right away, it's backyardpatch.blogspot.com. Marcia, welcome to the virtual Chicago Flower and Garden Show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being here, Mike and Peggy. I watch your show on Facebook every month, or every week.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Every month, if I had more people watch every month, I'd be the happiest guy.
Just think of all the extra time you'd have.
I mean, just get them for just once a month. That's great. I'm fine.
All righty.
But we are on weekly, just so you know. Marcia, so you've got a really short time here. What were you going to show people at the Chicago Flower and Garden Show?
Well, my program was about blending herbs. And the key with blending herbs is that you have to think about the fact that these are ways to enhance what you're doing. It's like mixology. So you're mixing your herbs into your foods with your meat or your vegetables and bringing everything together. And the way in which you accomplish that is to figure out for your palate what works. Do you have spicy herbs, savory herbs, sweet herbs, and then you just take all of those and you put them take a sheet of paper and fold it into thirds and write across the top sweet, savory, pungent, and then pick up the herbs and really sniff them. If you've got old herbs in your cabinet, you just want to sprinkle them into your hand, rub them with your fingers, and then sniff. If it doesn't smell like anything, you got to toss it out. It's already
no.
Oh, I know that's when you use 3 times the amount.
No, it still doesn't work. If it doesn't smell like anything, it's grass clippings.
That's a shame, because what I'm anticipating here are a lot of people who have a lot of herbs that they've been kicking around. And I was thinking, here's your chance. We've got Marcia on the program, and you can take those herbs and you've always wanted to experiment. And you said, I don't have the time. Well, now you're locked in at home and you can experiment all you want. But as you say, it has to smell like something.
Right. It does have to smell like something, but it's up to you and your palate whether it works for you flavor-wise. So you want to decide, is it sweet? Is it savory? Is it pungent? Pungent would be things like rosemary and sage, which are right in your face. Whereas the sweeter herbs would be like dills and mints and some of the lemons or the floral flavors. And then you have things like oregano and thyme that are savory. And so you divide your herbs into those categories, and then you start blending them together.
Well, this sounds like a good time to bring in the chart, which I'm going to share here and hope I can get rid of it when we need to. I popped up, if for those of you watching on Facebook and the YouTube's live, your rules about, you got tea rules and blend rules. Go through that a little bit.
Well, with tea, you want to add in some floral flavors. So you have your pungents, your savories, and your sweets, but then you add in things like roses and hibiscus and lavender, which would all give you some of those floral hints that you like in a good tea. Whereas when you're blending for savory purposes, for cooking purposes, then you take the flowers out, with the exception of things like lavender, which is always good to cook with. So the rule is start with 3. So you can choose 1 sweet, 1 savory, 1 pungent. You can do 2 sweets and a savory, 2 savories and a sweet. Never do 2 pungents together, though. You don't play well in the sandbox.
Yeah, I can understand why that might cause a problem.
So once you blend them together, then try out your blend in some cream cheese. If you like it in cream cheese, you're going to love it on your chicken, you're going to love it on your vegetables, and you just kind of mix them together and experiment around with your own personal flavor.
But
what's your favorite? What do you
My
recommend?
favorite blend is a little bit of thyme, a little bit of savory, which is an herb, and then just a touch of dill to give it some sweetness. And I put that into cream cheese and have it on my toast in the morning.
Sounds yummy.
Yeah, I want to get this in because it was 1 a.m. This morning when I was putting the blog together finally, and but I came up with what I thought was a brilliant phrase to about our times, which is when life hands you garlic, make a pungent herbal infusion.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I thought that was pretty good.
All
for
right, the
1
ding.
a.m. So, but that, because you taught me something, I had no idea there was the sweet, savory, and pungent. And I should stop the share here so we can see our faces again. I had no idea that it went into those categories. So you've taught me something this morning, and probably a lot of people.
Well, it's kind of fun because you can use it in a variety of different ways. So you can put the herbs into vinegar and let them steep. And then you've got a flavored vinegar you can cook with. You can blend the herbs together and put them into a honey. And then you've got flavored honey that you can put into your tea. Or you can actually blend the herbs together and brew yourself a tea.
60 seconds.
I made one special. I call it the Mike Nowak Show tea. And it's got just a little pink and just a little spice to it because it has some lemongrass in it.
Wow, that looks great. Now, how do I get it over here?
Yeah, how do we get a sample?
I'll send you some.
Will you please? That would just be terrific. Well, we've got like 20 seconds. What tip would you give people in 20 seconds?
Don't be afraid of herbs. They're not hard to cook with. Herbs are easy. They're simple to use. And if you don't like it, cook it a little longer and the flavor will disappear if you happen to actually put too much in.
Marcia Lautanen-Raleigh, thank you so much for being on the show. Tony, I wanted to give you like 10 seconds of final words here since you're still online with us.
Oh, well, thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate it. The three people you had on today were just an example, as you know, from year in and year out of all the seminars that we have, and a great educational. And we're going to try to advance this throughout the year and hopefully bring these people back in to share what their talks would have been about and helping people grow. As you know, our goal with Flower and Garden Show is to cultivate the next generation of gardener, and education is a great way to do that. So thank you for allowing us to come on this morning and do that. And thank you to everyone that's given us support over the last couple of weeks and having to cancel as it's been a tenuous process for us. And,
it has to have been painful. By the way, we're still on Facebook. We're still on YouTube. We went off the air on radio about 30 seconds ago. That's okay. But you're still getting this message out, and we appreciate it. And I know it's tough for everybody out there, and it's so great to have a number of our guests have been just hanging around on the Zoom there. You can't see them, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys just saying, let's do this. And that is the response I've been finding from folks as I say, hey, let's make herbal infusions out of lemons and garlic, whatever we've got. Hey, and they're all saying, yeah, that's what we want to do. And that's what I'm finding about gardeners is that they're really resilient. You know why? Because they know they can go outside or even indoors and they can plant stuff,
right,
and move forward. And that's a lesson I hope a lot of people get.
No, I think that's part of it. And, all those stay calm things we've been doing, stay calm and garden. But the nice thing about it is something that you can do with your family now that you're all home. You can be outside. The weather's going to turn a little bit. I remember Rick Federici said last week that, it's going to be a mild season. So you might be able to cheat up a little bit and get some things planted in the ground in the next couple of weeks.
And it's the time,
great.
Well,
it's time to watch the videos and read the books that you've always wanted to get to for your garden.
Right. We are going to get snow today, and it's going to be a little coldish in this week, but get ready because spring's going to come with a vengeance, and we need to be ready. I'm going to transform my yard. I've already looked at my yard, and I've already figured out where I'm going to rip out a bunch of perennials, some of them natives, but I'm going to put them in other areas of the yard that are more isolated and take the sun areas, and it's going to be Veggie City. So I'm going to transform my own yard because I got a tiny little space in Chicago, and I might actually take a video cam out there and show people what I'm going to do because I'm going to dig up stuff and move it, and then because I need the prime real estate for my vegetables this year, and that's what I'm counting on.
And I think I'm going to try and get a service berry or two in.
I was going to say, get Kasey out there on the consult.
Yes.
Yes.
And Marcia, you left out which ones go with vodka versus gin versus.
They all go with alcohol. You just
I
have
saw
simple
you
syrup.
I saw you have a workshop about that too.
You know what? I will tell you though. If does she have a workshop coming up? Because
No, she's got a workshop on infusing alcohol.
Oh,
and drinks.
fantastic! And folks can go to the website. And again, I've got that all those websites up on my blog post. Folks, Kasey, Marcia, and Tony are going to let you guys go. We're going to move on to the second hour.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Bye.
much.
Welcome to the second hour of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, root and bacon. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good
Welcome back
to
to
make
the Mike
me
Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We are hunkered down in our respective abodes and happy to be here with you on the radio. Hope you're streaming live at MikeNovak.net. You can always do it there if you want to get an internet connection. However, we also have live streaming video on Facebook, on Periscope, which is Twitter, and I know we have a couple of people who love to watch us on Twitter. Go figure.
And YouTube.
And because they say it's easy, it's on their phone, and they're okay. This is great.
Hey, why not?
And
we're on YouTube.
We're on YouTubes as well.
And thanks for everyone who's watching. We got a lot of people watching us and sharing this morning.
Oh, I haven't even been. I got in trouble last week when I tried to multitask and go on to Facebook. So I'm not even looking.
Yeah,
at
we don't let you near it to this morning. No.
I'm just doing radio. Let's just get to the basics here. I just need to do the basics, which is radio, and you can handle all that stuff. And I know we've got Kayla and possibly Hannah out there helping us out, and Andrew Marshall, who's not in the studio today because we got Randall, and kudos to Randall. One of the things we'll say about WCGO is that they've adopted safe practices now. They have a skeleton crew. Randall's working 72 hours a day. I don't know how he does it, but there he is. And we appreciate getting this show up and running, and it's been smooth as silk, because after last week, which was a little bumpy, but here we are. And so we started the first hour with the virtual Chicago Flower and Garden Show, which was practical advice, but fun about your own garden, getting out and doing your own stuff. However, most of you are not going to grow enough food in your own backyard to keep you sustained. Some of you will. And I'm amazed at some of the gardens I've seen in the city of Chicago, especially through the Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards, which is kind of on the back burner right now for 2020. But we have judged a lot of gardens in the city, and it's amazing the stuff that people can grow. However, people need to eat. And this conversation,
eat safely.
Yeah, and eat safely. And this conversation in the first half hour of this 10 o'clock hour is about food safety. So, and I got to stop emphasizing things by hitting the table because, again, we've got the seasick motion here. So we have Liz Moran Stelk on the Zoom line, the executive director of the Illinois Stewardship Alliance. And I was thinking about her from the get-go as this crisis, the coronavirus crisis, unfolded. And then I got this amazing email from the Illinois Stewardship Alliance. And I have to tell you a story. I'm up at 1 o'clock last night, as I mentioned in the first hour, putting the blog together. And I send this email to Liz, and I said, "Oh, you sent us this great email, but it's not. You didn't have an internet link to it." And so that's interesting. And folks, here's something.
60.
A little. Are we okay, Randall? All right.
That was 60.
Oh, 60. Folks who are doing this, you know what? I'll get to that later. So anyway, she responds to me at like 1:12 and says, "Here, I gave you the link." So I've got the link on my blog post. So thank you, Liz Moran Stelk from the Illinois Stewardship Alliance. Also on the Zoom, Jen and Jeff Miller. They operate Prairie Wind Family Farm. It's a 40-acre USDA certified organic farm in Grays Lake, Illinois. I know we just have a few seconds left here, so I'm just doing the introductions. And what I'm going to say is, when we come back with these folks, we're going to be talking about the safety of your food. How do you get local food? Is local food going to survive in the era of coronavirus? It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we will be right back. Stick around. Well, I'll ask you off, since this is not a food security conversation, Jen and Jeff, what are you working on in your farm right now?
Well, we have our winter shears going out next week. So we are delivering about 100 home deliveries on Wednesday and Thursday of fresh food and some eggs. And we're delivering while we're also planting furiously in our greenhouse. So Jeff did some seeding in the field, planting in the greenhouse. We got our new 400 layers in on Thursday. So we've got 400 new chickens on the farm. So it's busy.
What did you seed, Jeff, in the field?
Spinach. We've been trying to look for opportunities wherever we can to get additional things that we might otherwise not have planted because they don't fit with normal schedules. And so we felt like spinach might be able to both germinate and handle some of the cooler temperatures that we'll be getting. And so we're continuing to look at opportunities to do some of that stuff in addition to our normal plans and what we'd ordinarily do.
You know, I've got a ton of spinach seed. So I'm going to throw some of that out. That's probably a good thing for me to get going right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's we're a little unsure if it'll work out, but I always say you've got to shoot to score. You never know if it's going to work unless you put the seed in the ground. So
yeah, and I've got enough of it that I could get away with some experimenting. As I said in the first hour, I've got seeds that go back 10, 12 years. I never throw anything out. And it's amazing what's back there. And it's amazing what will germinate. Some of it will.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, and if you've got row cover, that'll probably help too.
Yep. Row cover, hoop houses, all those nice things.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those real small, low hoops that I can put the row cover over.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that'll work great.
Yeah.
And earth staple them down and keep the chipmunks out.
I know. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. What are the critters you deal with out there, Jen and Jeff?
Usually this time of year, rabbits are a big one because they're starting to wake up and get active, but there's not a lot of food outside for them. So they're one of the biggest ones this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, with Peggy, she has the chipmunks from hell about her yard and where she is. I've never heard.
And it's been a mild winter, so I think there's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah.
Same with the rabbits, probably.
Yes.
I have never heard stories like I hear from Peggy.
Well, and there are coyotes, so that keeps the rabbits down, but they don't bother with the smaller rodents.
It's a pity. I wish they would help out with that.
Yeah, it's we need more. In some ways, we need more predators.
It's true. It's true.
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. That song is never going to be zapped by Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook. And you know why? I found it this week. And you stumble across these things on the inner tubes, and that's a song from the 80s that is the mysterious internet song that nobody knows who recorded. And apparently it was recorded like 1984, and it's been making the rounds for 30 years. And nobody can identify who did it. So there are no rights attached to it.
Perfect.
But I love it. I may just play that for every bump, every single one.
There you go.
And when I saw that, I went, oh, yeah, I'm playing that song. Now, it sounds like it's a generic song, but oh, well, I like it. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. As I mentioned before the break, we have Liz Moran Stelk on the Zoom line with us from the Illinois Stewardship Alliance. We have Jen and Jeff Miller from Prairie Wind Family Farm. Liz, I'm going to start with you. This is our series segment about food security and food availability. And I know that the other day you and I talked, and you got on a Zoom conference call with like 70 people who are movers and shakers and on various food groups and organizations to discuss this very issue. Obviously, you can't break it all down, but you guys went up, separated into different groups to talk about different issues. What were some of the key issues that came up during that conversation?
Well, Mike, there's a lot of uncertainty for all of us right now, but there's definitely one thing that we know for sure, which is that each one of us has to do things differently in the coming weeks. Everybody's behaving differently because of social distancing, but also farmers and the local food community is adapting and trying to figure out how can we how can we thrive during this time and come up with great solutions that help get the food that farmers are growing into the hands of the people that need it most. And that means that we have to quickly come up with solutions like online farmers markets, adapting the way that they do their business. Farmers have to change what they're planting. There's all sorts of things and all of it has to be communicated as quickly as we can. But it also means that people, your choices matter now more than they ever have to buy local.
Well, let's get right into that then, because what I'm concerned about, we just had a lockdown in Illinois yesterday. All right. Supermarkets are still open. People can get food at a supermarket. They can have it delivered. Kathleen and I just had an order placed, which is, not going to come for 4 days because that's how backed up they are. But I know that this should be a time when local food is more important than ever. We have talked for years about how we need to stop bringing in all this food. There several years ago, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, there was this meme about how Illinois is so food insecure that if the New Madrid Fault gave way and the bridges collapsed, we couldn't get food into Illinois because it travels 1,400 miles to get here. A lot of it does. Now we're at a point where we've got a lot of local industry here, people growing food, and I'm afraid that we're going to rely on the 1,400-mile food that's in the supermarket.
Rather than shortening the food chain.
It seems like a contradiction. It's just mind-boggling. So are you addressing that at all? And are the smaller farmers going to be able to get out there and ply their trade and deliver their food without being subjected to shutdowns from the state government?
Yeah, we think so. I mean, everything we've read from the governor's orders is that farmers, agriculture, and markets are essential services that are going to stay open as long as grocery stores are open. So we're confident that that farmers can continue operating. The question is, are folks going to quickly adapt and take on some, especially technology that some farmers have been reticent and some food businesses have been reticent to adopt? And the real question is, how quickly can we get folks to do things differently, and how can they sustain themselves? A lot of the things that we heard on Friday were farmers saying, I'm exhausted. I'm, growing everything we can on my farm, and now I also have to change everything about how I deliver. One of the farmers had spent 12 hours in his car delivering food. Those are inefficiencies that none of us can afford. So we're trying to figure out what are the things we can adopt right away to really meet what people want, which is convenient, quick, safe, good food, and they want to be able to order it online. So we're doing all of that. In fact, I'm excited. I know, Mike, you're going to share with folks the links for how they can find lots of local food.
Well, I can tell folks they can go to my website, MikeNowak.net, and if they go to the blog post, and I'm doing that.
And I'll put it up on Facebook too.
Yeah, let's put this post up there. It is.
Hannah, if you could do that as well, please.
Yeah, you scroll down, and what I write there is, let me find it here. All right, great. Of course, I can't find it right now.
The farmers.
Oh, the what? The great list. And I can't see it. Why can't I see it? Okay, of course I can.
Well, I'll post it anyways.
All right, yeah, please do, because there was a great list, fantastic list that the Illinois Farmers Market Association put up. I got a feeling that I didn't refresh the page, and that's probably why I can't see it, because I added that in at 1 a.m. from you. So let's go to Jen and Jeff. All right, you guys are out there doing your organic farm, and are you concerned that you're not going to be able to get your food out to the public?
Not really. I mean, we've been delivering food to people for 14 years. We've been farming for 14 years now. We've been going to farmers markets, and we've been doing our community supported agriculture program for that long. And that means that we're delivering food every week and every other week throughout the Chicagoland area. So we already have some of the infrastructure in place to deliver food. Right now we're delivering to about 14 different communities. And we also have some on-farm sales. But what we were planning earlier this year was to expand our on-farm sales. And that is something that has really come to the fore in terms of being even more important. We've seen a huge increase in demand in terms of what we have for sale right now in our little honor box store, which is primarily eggs, honey, and jams. And so we'd like to expand that so that people have the availability, or I'm sorry, the access that they need to the food that we produce, and we would sell more of that in our on-farm store. So we are adapting to this new situation. We are doing home deliveries next week of our winter shares. Originally, we were planning to deliver to pickup sites where people would come and pick up the produce themselves, but we really felt it was important to deliver to individuals' homes and keep them safe. And so we are kind of doing a bit of a triage. Myself, Jeff, others on our farm crew, even some volunteers are going to help us deliver those shares. And we just feel it's so important that we show people that local food is possible to access, and we really depend on that support to keep our business going.
Well, doesn't that cut into your bottom line?
It does, but honestly, it's an investment in what we want to do in the future. I mean, it does cost us money to get the food out via home delivery, but allowing people that access now will allow them to try to cook more in their homes and potentially become more used to cooking food. I think that's a huge stumbling block for people, is just sometimes not knowing what to do with all the food. They feel like they might be wasting the food.
Yeah.
And so if we can actually help to connect people to food right now and offer them cooking ideas, even if we were talking last night about doing some Zoom cooking tips.
Oh, perfect.
If we can offer people the ability to learn in this time, they might continue that relationship with local food. And that's what we really like. We want local food to be the new normal.
And a lot of farms are trying to do the same. By the way, your spring CSA, from what I understand, is that sold out?
It is. We've extended ourselves a little bit on that one. We were sold out actually about a week ago, but we've left it open, and we have seen about 100% increase in sales to what we had seen this week last year.
Yeah.
Just because of what people are really waking up to, in that they really want to make sure that the food that they're accessing is safe, local, and nutritious.
And that gets to the point.
And I was going to say, and you have eggs and other things too for people beyond just produce.
That's true. We have fresh local eggs. In the summertime, we offer fresh fruit through a longtime partnership we've had with farmers out of Michigan. And so what we try to do is keep alive those partnerships with other farmers, so we can bring other farmers' produce to our CSA members, introduce our CSA members to other farmers, and potentially offer them the ability to buy more of other farmers' produce. So the more that we can introduce people to all these outlets of food that they can get, the better we feel about building our local food system.
Which takes us to the idea of CSAs. And I would expect a lot of people right now to be jumping on CSAs, community supported agriculture, and ordering a CSA, because then they know that their food is grown locally, it's grown fresh, and it doesn't touch as many hands on the way to them. And that's why I would say a local food might be more. I know, and I don't have numbers to back this up. And Liz, maybe you can help me a little bit on this, and maybe Jen and Jeff can as well. Is local food from a local farmer, a CSA, or even a a farmer's market, isn't that a little bit safer than from a supermarket?
We feel like it is. Yeah, just to your point that it's touched so many fewer hands. We have a small team here working with us, and the food goes straight from our farm to a person's hand, whether we're dropping off at their front porch or they're coming to a pickup site. It's not stopping at a distribution facility and then moving on to a store and so on. It's going straight from us to another person, and just that step alone, we feel like makes it quite a bit more safe.
Yeah, and
like
go ahead.
The risks for small businesses, for small farm businesses, are so much greater than they are, for grocery stores, right? Their whole business model is based on feeding people in their own community. If they were to get people in their own community sick, they're going to take every measure to avoid that, because their business relies on people they know. And we've seen, certainly larger, but look, we're lucky to have one of the safest food supplies in the world, but there are brands who caused, unsafe food, and they're still surviving today. And so there's a much more accountability at the local level if a farmer at a farmer's market got people sick than there is in the food supply chain now.
Okay, so this is something that people need to get into their heads, is that they can get fresh produce, they can get it grown locally, they can support local farmers, they can have food that might be safer. And again, we don't have specific numbers on this, but I agree with Jeff. If there are fewer people touching it, I mean, if it comes out of his field, one person touches it, goes into the box. If you go to a grocery store, you don't know who's put their hands on it. Now, that being said, Peggy and I talked about an article from a European agency that said there's really no indication right now that food passes along the disease. But they touch other things, that you might get in a grocery store. It's, and I'm not saying don't go to grocery stores. Actually, I kind of am. My feeling is, why would you do that? Why would you expose yourself to that? So what are the next steps, Liz, to get more people to do this, to support their local farmers and CSAs?
So there's options right now to find and buy local food. So there's farmers markets, for instance, in Chicago that are not able to operate, but they're figuring out first how to reopen, and then second, how to open online. So folks right now can go to chicagofarmersmarketcollective.org, and they can actually order from farmers market vendors right online, which is incredible. You could use Irv and Shelley's Fresh Picks, freshpicks.com, to get food ordered and delivered, local food. If you're in Central Illinois, buy fresh, buy local, centralillinois.org, the Illinois Farmers Market Association. And I know, Mike, you're going to share.
Well, and I was right that I hadn't refreshed, and I had changed it, after you and I talked. So it's called Your Choice and Your Voice. Go to my blog, and when you see the link to Your Choice, and boy, if you got a lot of stuff on there, you've got access to local food, farmers markets, co-ops, CSAs. You even have information from Illinois Extension about how to plant your own garden. So it's got everything there, and we're going to get that link out far and wide because people need to have that information. Okay, we're just about out of time here. I just want to thank all of you for being on the show. Jeff and Jen Miller, good luck to you. Keep the CSA going. Liz Moran Stelk from Illinois Stewardship Alliance, keep up the good work. We'll be back with Nature, the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We'll be right back.
Yeah, we did have a quick question on Facebook, real quick, of small local organic farms with restaurant customers. What are they doing?
Right now, we're honestly texting our friends every day and trying to support them in every way we can. We are kind of just taking the lead and the cues from them in terms of what they need. And so right now, we're really just communicating and supporting. If there are ways that we can work together, we're brainstorming a couple of those in terms of how can those chefs offer some tips and ideas for our CSA. So we're doing a little bit of brainstorming on that. But right now, like I said, being supportive.
And I'll let you know.
We've certainly heard farmers that are taking a big cut because their restaurant customers aren't ordering as much. But on the other hand, folks like Kim Nolan, who runs Redbird Cafe in Homewood, she's offering to-go family-style meals that you can order with all local food. So, even the restaurants are adapting. My husband and I have a meal we're excited to order. We have for tonight.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
And I wanted to tell Jeff and Jen that I put your link on my blog post as well too. And I'm hoping that people will take advantage of that. I don't know who's listening on Facebook right now, but Liz and I have been talking about my show offering opportunities for CSAs to advertise at very low rates so they can get the word out. And this is what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to put that PDF together for you, Liz. And Peggy, I'll talk to you about it because I haven't even included you in the loop yet. But I will do that, and we're going to see if we can't do some good work for the CSAs and the local markets out there.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, we need to move on to our next segment. Thank you guys for being with us.
Bye.
We'll talk
Thank
soon.
you. Bye-bye.
Sing it, Mr. Rogers. He's not going to sing. He's not going to get into it yet.
Where's your cardigan?
It's it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, but I do not have my cardigan on. I should have. It's up. Kathleen, get me the cardigan. Never mind. And there's a connection here because we know that Mr. Rogers now has COVID-19. That is to say, Tom Hanks. And he's recovering. It seems like they're doing fine. So that's good to hear. But it was weird because I ran across the song and I thought, okay, I'm going to play this because it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's going to snow today, but as long as we're talking about nature and food.
And I've got robins running around on the lawn outside my window. So
and chipmunks riding on their backs, and it's really kind of fun. Speaking of nature, this is the third element of our show today. We talked about growing food in your backyard and how you can do that and infuse herbs into your drinks, your teas, and to your dishes. And then we talked about how to shop for food that keeps you sustained. You can grow it in your yard too, but you have to shop for it at some point as well, most people. And now we talk about nature because a week ago, what we were hearing as the coronavirus came in and before we had the stay-in-place order in Illinois and New York and California and now potentially other states, we were being told, well, the good way to stay healthy is go out in nature and go experience it. And now some of those places are being locked down too. Now, not everything's closed, but it's tricky. For instance, I got an email from Will County. They've locked up the parking lot. They don't want dog walkers there anymore, but you can still access the forest preserves, which is sort of weird because some people need to drive to the forest preserves. Otherwise they can't get there. In the Chicago region, in Cook County, it's a lot easier for people to get to the forest preserves. You can bike there or you can walk there. But all the facilities are shut down and museums are shut down, which brings us to our next guest, Sarah Anderson, who's the Director of Education at Chicago's Peggy Notebaert Nature Museum. And you guys decided that, okay, folks still need to know about nature. Normally they come to the museum and they learn about butterflies and frogs and turtles and salamanders and whatever else is out there in nature. And you said, we're going to take it to your home. Tell us about that, Sarah.
Good morning. Yes, thank you so much for having the Nature Museum on your show today. Usually in the spring, the education department is so excited teaching all the school groups that come on field trips to the museum. But with our new situation, we as a whole museum really came together to think about how we can engage and support everyone as their home. So we're doing that through our Daily Wonder email that gets sent directly to your inbox. And it's a collaboration between our scientists, our external affairs team, and our education department, and everyone that's focused on education to really support grown-ups and their kids asking questions and being curious about nature around them.
Yeah, it's called the Nature Museum Comes to You. And I found out about that because I got your email and you said, okay, we've shut down, but we're still going to be sending out information, and it's a kind of a homeschooling, isn't it? Because you're sending out STEM lessons developed by the museum educators and scientists that parents, guardians, and caregivers can use. And what I was thinking was, it isn't just for the kids. I keep thinking the adults are going to get as much information out of this as the kids are.
And color and the great coloring things you're sending out. I'm going to be doing that.
Oh, so okay, so Peggy's got her crayons out. Well, tell me about the educational material, Sarah.
Yeah, it really is for all of us, and that's what we think about, how science skills are really life skills. So if we're all asking questions and noticing what's happening around us, we can be learning science at every level and every day. So we're really thinking about kind of three main things that can help you with that science at home while you're there with your kids or just yourself or whoever's with you. And so we're thinking about making observations. So if you can make a routine out of looking out your window and noticing what's happening, spring is such a beautiful time to do that because as you guys have been talking about, you're seeing the plants start to pop up out of ground. The trees are budding out. The birds are coming back. The squirrels are very active in lots of ways. So lots of fun things to observe out your window.
Well, what I've been saying to some people, and I see this is my dark side coming out, is the plants are taunting us right now. Okay. They're saying, hey, we don't have a problem with coronavirus. We're going to pop up here. But actually, we can enjoy that. We can still enjoy that. And you can still get out to certain areas. You just can't go to a museum. I'm looking at The Nature Comes to You. And by the way, the link is there on my website, MikeNowak.net. Go to the blog, and
we've put it on Facebook and tweeted it out as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kayla and Hannah, for doing that. And some of the stuff that you've had on there, how do butterflies eat? It's Turtle Tuesday. Well, today's not Tuesday, but you sent it out on Turtle Tuesday. Fabulous frogs, Read to Me Day. How did animals survive the winter? Just stuff that a lot of folks would want to know about anyway. So how is this all being put together, Sarah?
Yeah, it's really wonderful to see how collaboration at the Nature Museum is sustaining and evolving in these new situations. So collaboration across departments and team at the Nature Museum has always been critical, but now we're finding new ways to do that. And so some of our scientists are out in the field doing the important field work that they need to, studying the reptiles and amphibians that are just waking up from hibernation. So we're getting reports back from the scientists in the field. And then the educators and facilitators and marketing people at the museum are figuring out the best way to tell that story. So even though the rest of us are staying safe in our homes, we can learn from our scientists that are out there and all of the other research and activities that are available. So if we're thinking about making our observations, asking questions, and sharing about what we've learned, those are really three key things that we want our learners at home to be doing as well.
Well, and I'm going to encourage people to do this, to sign up. And I've got the link where you can sign up to get the newsletter, because what's going to happen here is you're going to get all these people filled with all this knowledge while they're cooped up. And then when they're free, they're going to go out to these places and try to find the things that they read about it. And I assume that's what you want to have happen, Sarah.
Absolutely. At the Nature Museum, we are the urban gateway to nature and science. So we want people to connect with nature in whatever way is best for them, because we know that there is so many mental and physical health benefits from being in nature. And so we have to connect that way a little more virtually now. But as the time's right, getting out into nature and experiencing it in a safe way is so important. Another way that we can continue to do that right now, though, is through community-based science. So those are opportunities to not only record your observations, but learn from the science that's happening out there. So if you just look into some community-based science activities, there's really awesome ways to do those three key points that we've been talking about making observations, asking your questions, and sharing what you've learned.
I imagine, community-based science.
Citizen science.
Citizen science, is going to be more important than ever right now. And let's face it, people have a lot of free time on their hands at the moment.
Well, and migration season's starting, for example. I'm seeing in my own yard a couple of new sparrows coming in. I'm looking on different lists, Chicago Audubon, a lot of the other Facebook groups of everyone's just recording pretty much everything they're seeing going by. And you know, it is a great time with more quiet time for people to learn observation, for people to maybe take an online course of bird identification or frog identification.
Yeah, and so there's so many great opportunities out there, and that's another form of collaboration that's really happening between institutions and the public. So some of the other great institutions in Chicago that have awesome citizen science projects, if you're into birds, are like eBird, or if plants are more your thing, the Botanic Garden has the Bud Burst, which right now they're wanting us to collect data on when we see the first buds and blossoms and blooms come out. So that would be a real do together as a family.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Sarah Anderson, for being part of this, and for the folks at Peggy Notebaert Nature Museum for keeping science alive during really tough times. I love the way the people are innovating right now, especially our institutions. And of course, you can go to MikeNovak.net to find out all this information. Take advantage of it and sign up and get the newsletter. You're not going to regret it. And I hope we talk to you real soon about the work you're doing there. So thank you, Sarah, so much. It's Mike Novak here with Peggy Malecki. We'll be right back.
You're in charge of.
I need toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper. I'm out of toilet paper. It's my Corona. I need toilet paper, toilet
We're going to let this one play just a little bit because it's pretty funny. Hang on.
Got to make a grocery run. Well, that sounds fun. Why am I out here risking my life? Corona, where's a parking space? I touch my face. Wait, I think I finally got my Corona. Stop it, don't be manic. Go inside. No organic. Oh no,
This is weird Al gonna be
Jesus
next.
Christ. Now I panic.
so.
I'll die.
Yeah, I wonder how many versions of my Corona are going to be out there. It's just that's a popular, because that's an easy one. You can figure out how to make that one work. Welcome back to the Mike Novak Show with Peggy Malecki. Like I said last week, there's a whole cottage industry rising up with coronavirus songs, and good for them. I'm glad. And you guys better not zap me for playing any of them. They did. One of them, actually, the one last week that I got zapped on was too close to Simon & Garfunkel's
Oh, yeah.
Silence, and they didn't like that one. Oh well.
Yeah, and they even acknowledged that it was a copy, but they still said it's too close.
Yeah, well, we don't like that. Okay. Hey, listen. One of the cool things I'm seeing is newspapers are allowing people to go online for free right now. Places
All the paywalls are down on COVID
paywalls
stuff.
are down in a lot of places, and that's really smart. And it's important that they do that. And I'm so glad to see that. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, but still support
Feel
your
licenses
local
right now.
support
Bring
your
the
local papers though.
Yeah.
Even if the paywalls are down, they have to stay in business.
Yeah. Let's get Rick DeMaio on the phone here. Rick, are you with us?
I'm with us.
It's what is this stuff about snow today, huh?
It's called March in the Midwest. It's a coin toss every weekend, and it's kind of like, it's just all part of being in an environment where you have, you're not too far away from the North Pole, because you're at the end of winter, and the Gulf of Mexico and Pacific Ocean are warm, and every once in a while you'll start out the month with 2 fabulous Sundays in a row. If you recall, we had readings, in the upper 60s and close to 70 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And I said the second half of the month was going to be cold, and it's definitely turned that way. And I just checked out a couple of webcams and observations, Mike and Peg, across western Illinois, just around the St. Louis area, and it is indeed snowing. And the fact that we had some pretty chilly weather around here the last couple of days, that snow should have no problem sticking to, mainly cars, rooftops, grassy surfaces, sidewalks, driveways, and things like that. But also because it's going to be falling during the nighttime hours. So that's a big part of snow in March, is when it actually begins to occur, during the day or at night. So you'll wake up tomorrow morning with about an inch, maybe an inch and a half of slush. Should not be a big deal because it's occurring at night and because there's not going to be many cars and trucks or buses on the roads tomorrow morning. So a low impact event.
Yeah, and let's face it, last year, remember, we had snow events a month from now.
Yeah, end of April.
End of
Yeah, and as Peg mentioned, the end of April, that second event, where we had nearly 2.5 inches of snow, that was 5 days after we had an 80-degree temperature. So last April was, without a doubt, one of the most bizarre months I have ever seen. But, you know, when you go up into northern sections in the Midwest, Marquette, Michigan, 175 inches of snow so far this season. Yeah, and that's actually
crazy.
Normal for them. Yeah, and what's really amazing about this, Peg, is that last storm that came through, the one that went north of us and gave us, some rain early in the week. They had over 10 inches of snow, and they have 30 inches of snow on the ground right now. That's their snow depth. It's unbelievable
And that's
how much
just
snow there
out
is.
of, so out of our consciousness at this point.
Well, my brother lives in Manistee, Michigan, and he says once you get into winter, it snows all the time, and you just get used to it because it's all blowing off of Lake Superior, isn't it? And sometimes Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
the ice
and
cover
the-
like on the lakes right now?
Oh, Peg, it's down to zero. It's totally zero, and
Even on
that's one of the
Superior?
reasons why they. Even on well, if you look at the total percentage, it probably shows about 10%. But all of that is basically in Duluth Harbor and some of the other inlets. But one of the problems that they had up in the UP over the weekend was not only system snow, lake effect snow, but also massive beach erosion due to the northerly winds and the fact that Lake Superior is basically at record high levels, just as it is here. So I'm actually sitting in my car looking at Lake Michigan, beat up Lee Street Beach, and people are still kind of getting out and about and doing their walking and jogging and walking their dogs. But again, as long as we continue to have these high lake levels and these big storms coming through, even though this is not a big storm, we'll get back to normal in about a month. Going, are we going to do something about the Great Lakes? So all the money that is obviously being spent, and rightly so, to fight, this pandemic, there's not going to be anything left over for the environment. So again, Mother Nature, planet Earth, in some degree, is kind of getting back at us in a weird way, isn't it?
That's a really good point, is that a lot of that money is going to be diverted. And we were all worried about the beaches crumbling, and they will continue to crumble, and we might not be able to, as you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could basically put anything related to funding for what you call extramental, or what's the word I'm looking for, tangential projects, basically off the table for the next year or two. And you know what? You even saw that, under the Obama administration back in 08 and 09 and 10, is the funding just wasn't there because of what happened with the financial crisis. You obviously had to, kind of move your funding around in other places, and then you began to see it come back. And that's just the nature of the beast. So these are very, very strange times, and I think it's really difficult for a college senior who a month ago had everything looking up for them, and now, in addition to the fact that they have to take the rest of their semester online, things are really, really, difficult for them more than anything. And I know that the government is doing a lot from a standpoint of bailing them out with, delaying payments of those loans, but we all know that delay time goes by really fast.
All right, let's do that forecast because people are going to want to know about this snow.
Okay. All right. So again, even though it's cloudy, even though the temperature is close to about 35 degrees, the atmosphere is dry enough where once it begins to rain in about 2 or 3 hours, that rain will actually cool the temperature down to freezing. So I'm thinking sometime around 3, 4 o'clock, the rain will begin. About 6 or 7 o'clock, the snow will begin. It'll snow through about 3 a.m., an inch or two, and then basically back to near normal weather with 50s and rain by Tuesday and Wednesday.
That's it, huh? Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, appreciate it. And we'll talk to you. Stay safe and get out and hike if you can. I want to thank everybody on the show today. Boy, Tony Abruscato, Brekke Bounds, Kasey Eaves, Marcia Lautanen-Raleigh, Jeff and Jen Miller, Liz Moran Stelk, Sarah and Randall. We appreciate all of your work. Until next time, go green or
go home.
How'd you like it? I don't know. I slept through the whole thing. Well, you didn't miss much.